My husband shamed me over a bikini pic posted to my private story, so I found his old creepy obsession and exposed it. When I confronted him, he said, "You had no right to dig through my past." I didn't say a word. That was 3 weeks ago. This morning, he saw something in our bedroom and hasn't spoken since. It started with a bikini photo, not even a revealing one. I was on vacation with my friends, and the photo clearly showed me wearing a wedding ring as I was standing at the edge of a pool with a towel wrapped around my waist. I posted it to my private Instagram story. 16 viewers total. That was it. When I got home, my husband was cold to me. He didn't say anything that night, just went to bed early. The next morning, he said, "I saw your picture." I was confused. Which one? He just raised his eyebrows. "You think that was appropriate? As a wife?" I laughed. At first, I thought he was joking. I'd worn less at actual pools with him. I reminded him of that. He didn't budge. "It's not about the bikini," he said. "It's the message it sends. It's about respect. For me." As your husband, I stood there stunned. He went on for 5 full minutes about presentation, intent, and how men think differently, how some wives understand their role. I asked him if he thought I looked bad. He said, "It makes me look bad." And just like that, I went from confident to ashamed. I deleted the photo, but it sat in my head all day. Not the photo, the way he said it. Like I was property, like I was a reflection, like I embarrassed him by being visible. Later that night, I sat alone on the couch, spiraling. I hated how easy it was for him to make me feel like I'd done something wrong. It felt like emotional whiplash. 1 minute I was laughing in the sun, and the next I was asking myself if I'd humiliated my husband by existing in a swimsuit. That's when I remembered the shoebox. He used to be into photography in college, had an old DSLR camera he'd brag about. It hadn't been used in years, but I remembered that he'd kept the SD cards in a shoebox labeled gear. I got curious. I wasn't expecting to find anything. I just needed a reminder that he wasn't always like this, that maybe he once saw women as more than a reflection of his pride. What I found was half our campus, not even exaggerating. Girl after girl. Some posed, some clearly didn't know they were being photographed. Crop tops, low-rise jeans, bikini shots at frat pools, girls in dorm beds, parties, bathtubs, and every single one was saved, cataloged, named by folder. Spring formal, Ashley plus roommates, Misk, unfiltered. Some were clearly intimate. A few looked like they were taken while the girls were asleep. My skin crawled, and he'd kept them all, untouched, stored like trophies. My hands were shaking, and just like that, shame turned into rage. I scrolled through photo after photo, until one hit me. A girl in a red bikini, arms above her head, neck arched. A soft smile like she didn't know she was being watched. The date stamp said 2012. I copied it to a USB. The next day, I walked through our house like a ghost. Barely said anything. He didn't notice. He was busy working on his laptop, probably sending emails about respect. I went to Target and bought a large, dramatic black frame, matte finish, museum style. I printed the photo, hung it above our bed, and said nothing. When he got home, he walked into the bedroom and just froze. He stared for a long time. Finally, he asked, "What's this?" I said, "Article. Don't you recognize your work?" Then I walked out. He didn't bring it up again. That was 3 days ago. The photo's still up. He's been weirdly polite, opening doors, offering coffee, trying to test my temperature. But I haven't thawed. Because the truth is, this wasn't about a bikini photo. It was about control. About him deciding when I was too much. About him getting to be shameless and messy and wild in his youth, but punishing me for enjoying the sun in adulthood. When I went to check on the USB, I found it missing. Little did he know, I made a copy. I eventually found photos of me in the files. Photos that were taken months before I even met him. Private photos. I'm furious and heartbroken, and I haven't even scratched at the surface of how I plan to make him pay. The next morning, I woke up to find the framed photo gone. Not just taken down, completely gone from the house. I checked the trash cans inside and out. Nothing. I looked at Ethan across the breakfast table. He was acting normal, scrolling through his phone like nothing happened. I didn't mention it. Instead, I went to work and printed another copy. This time I made 3. When I got home, I hung one in our bedroom again, put another in the guest bathroom. The third went in his home office. I waited on the couch for him to get home. My heart was pounding so hard I thought I might throw up. The garage door opened at 6:15 like always. I heard him set his keys down, walk to the kitchen, open the fridge, then silence. He must have seen the one in his office. I heard fast footsteps. He appeared in the doorway looking pale. "What are you doing?" he asked. His voice was quiet but shaking. I just stared at him. "I asked you a question," he said louder this time. I shrugged. "Decorating. You never let me pick the art before." He ran his hand through his nail. "Take them down. Now." I didn't move. "Why? It's your photography. Aren't you proud of your work?" He slammed his hand on the wall. "I am sorry, this isn't funny, Megan. You're being childish." I stood up then. Childish? Like secretly photographing girls without their consent? Like keeping a creepy collection for 10 years? Like that kind of childish? His face changed then. His eyes got cold. "You went through my things." Not an apology. Not an explanation, just anger that I found out. I went to bed in the guest room that night, locked the door, put a chair against it too. I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about those photos of me. How did he get them? We met junior year of college at a mutual friend's party, or so I thought. The timestamps on those photos were from sophomore year. Photos of me walking to class, at the campus coffee shop, even one through my dorm window. The next morning I called in sick to work, waited for him to leave, then I went through everything. His closet, his desk drawers, the garage. I found another shoebox in the attic, more SD cards. But these weren't from college. The dates were recent. Last month, last week. Photos of women at his gym, at the grocery store, our neighbor Tara watering plants in her yard, a waitress at our favorite restaurant, and me, always me, getting the mail, sleeping, changing clothes, My stomach dropped to my feet. This wasn't just a college phase. This was who he was, who he is. I sat on the floor surrounded by evidence, trying to breathe. I needed help. I called my best friend Naomi. Can you come over? Don't tell anyone where you're going. She must have heard something in my voice because she didn't ask questions, just said she'd be there in 20. I showed her everything. The college photos, the recent ones, the ones of me before we met. She looked like she might be sick. Megan, this is stalking. This is criminal. I nodded, numb. What do I do? She took my hand. You need to get out of here. Today. Come stay with me. I shook my head. If I leave now, he'll know I found everything. He'll get rid of it all. We made a plan. I would act normal for a few days, gather evidence, make copies, then get out safely. Naomi helped me organize the SD cards. We took photos of everything with her phone. She left with copies of the worst ones, promising to keep them safe. I put everything back exactly where I found it. Then I took down the framed photos and made dinner like nothing happened. That night, Ethan came home with flowers, expensive ones. I'm sorry I overreacted, he said, about your vacation photo and the art thing. Let's just move past it. He smiled at me, the same smile I used to love. Now it made my skin crawl. I forced myself to smile back. Sure, water under the bridge. He hugged me and I had to stop myself from flinching. For the next 2 days, I played the part of forgiving wife. I laughed at his jokes, watched TV beside him, even slept in our bed again, all while planning my escape. I opened a new bank account, gathered important documents, made copies of his camera receipts, the SD cards, everything. I found his laptop password written in a desk drawer and logged in while he was at the gym. What I found made me freeze. A folder labeled targets. Inside were subfolders with women's names. Mine was there. So was Naomi's. And dozens more. Each folder had photos, addresses, work schedules, social media screenshots. He had been tracking all of us. Planning, watching. I copied everything to a cloud drive with shaking hands. This was bigger and worse than I imagined. I texted Naomi, it's worse, much worse. Coming to your place tomorrow. She replied immediately, doors open whenever you get here. I deleted our conversation from my phone. Went back to making dinner like my world wasn't imploding. Ethan came home and kissed my cheek. Told me the food smelled great. Asked about my day like he was a normal husband. Not someone with a folder labeled targets on his computer. That night, I barely slept. Every time he moved in his sleep, I tensed up. I kept thinking about all those women, all those folders, all those years of watching and collecting and cataloging. Had he been following me for a year before we met? Had our entire relationship been planned? I felt sick remembering how I thought our meeting was such a cute coincidence, how I thought it was fate. In the morning, I told him I was going shopping with Naomi. He nodded, barely looking up from his coffee. Have fun, he said. I packed a small bag while he was in the shower, just essentials, enough to not look suspicious if he checked our closet. I put it in my trunk while he was still getting ready, kissed him goodbye like it was any other day, walked to my car with my heart in my throat. I was halfway to Naomi's when I noticed a car following me. Silver Honda, tinted windows, staying exactly 3 cars behind no matter how I turned. My hands started shaking on the wheel. Was it him? Had he installed something on my car? I took a random exit. The Honda followed. I pulled into a gas station. The Honda drove past slowly. I couldn't see the driver through the tint. I called Naomi. I think I'm being followed. She told me to drive to the police station instead. I pulled back onto the road, hands sweating. The Honda reappeared in my rear view. I took random turns. It stayed with me. I was about to call 911 when my phone rang. Ethan. I let it go to voicemail. It rang again immediately. Then a text. Where are you really going, Megan? My blood went cold. I didn't answer. Another text came through. I know you went through my computer. Come home and we can talk about it. Then another. I'm not who you think I am. It's not what it looks like. I turned my phone off, made a sharp U-turn. The Honda followed. I drove straight to the police station, parked right in front, and ran inside. I ran into the police station lobby, probably looking like a complete mess. My hands were shaking so bad, I could barely hold my purse. The desk officer looked up at me with that bored expression they all have until they actually see your face. His name tag said, Officer Daniels. He immediately stood up. Ma'am, are you okay? He asked. I wasn't. Not even close. I glanced back through the glass doors. The silver Honda had parked across the street, just sitting there, watching. I need help, I managed to say. I think my husband has been stalking me, and other women, for years. And now someone's following me. Officer Daniels called over a female officer named Rivera. They took me to a small room with uncomfortable chairs and a table bolted to the floor. I dumped everything out, showed them the photos on my phone, the copies of the SD cards, everything. Officer Rivera's face got darker with each swipe of my phone screen. How long have you been married? She asked, taking notes. 4 years, I said, but apparently he was taking pictures of me for a year before we even met. They asked more questions, lots more. When did I discover this? Did he ever threaten me? Did he have weapons in the house? I answered everything, my voice sounding strange in my own ears, like I was talking about someone else's life. Officer Rivera left to make some calls while Officer Daniels stayed with me. My phone kept lighting up with texts from Ethan. I finally turned it back on to show the officer. Where are you? Answer, me. You're making a mistake. I can explain everything. I'm worried about you. And then the one that made my skin crawl. I only did it because I love you so much. Officer Daniels read them all, his face unreadable. We're going to need to take a formal statement, he said. And we'll need to see those SD cards and your husband's computer. I nodded. The originals are still at the house. I only have copies. That's when Officer Rivera came back in. The car that followed you is registered to a Marcus Winters, she said. Does that name mean anything to you? I shook my head. Never heard of him. We'll send a patrol car to check it out, she said. In the meantime, we need to talk about your safety plan. They recommended I stay somewhere Ethan wouldn't know about, not Naomi's place. That would be the first place he'd look. They asked if I had family nearby. I didn't. My parents lived 3 states away, and my brother was overseas in the military. I can get a hotel, I said. My new secret bank account had enough for a few nights. Officer Rivera nodded. Use cash. Don't use your regular credit cards. And we'll need your husband to come in for questioning. I felt sick at the thought of him sitting in this same room, looking at these same officers with his charming smile, explaining away his hobby as a misunderstanding. They took my formal statement. It took hours. By the time I finished, it was getting dark outside. Officer Daniels walked me to my car. The silver Honda was gone. I didn't know if that made me feel better or worse. We'll have officers go to your house to speak with your husband, he said. Do you want to be present for that? I shook my head violently. Number, absolutely not. All right, we'll call you with updates. Remember, hotel, cash only, don't tell anyone where you're staying. I nodded and got in my car. My phone had died hours ago. I didn't want to turn it back on anyway. I drove to an ATM first, withdrew the daily maximum. Then I found a cheap motel on the outskirts of town. Paid cash for 3 nights. The room smelled like old cigarettes and the bedspread had seen better days, but it had a deadbolt and a chain lock. I used both. I sat on the edge of the bed staring at the wall. What now? I should call Naomi. Let her know I was safe. I plugged in my phone and waited for it to turn on. Immediately, notifications flooded in. 28 missed calls from Ethan, 45 text messages, 3 voicemails, and 1 text from Naomi. Are you okay? Call me. I called her first. She answered on the first ring. Oh my God, Megan! Where are you? The police were here asking about you and Ethan. My stomach dropped. What? Why were they at your place? They said they were doing a welfare check? That Ethan called them because you were missing and he was worried? They asked if I'd seen you today. I gripped the phone tighter. What did you tell them? I said we were supposed to meet up, but you never showed. I didn't know what else to say. What's happening? I told her everything. The police station, the silver car, the safety plan. Holy shit, she whispered. So he's trying to find you by reporting you missing? That's twisted. I need to call the officers I spoke with, I said. Can you do me a favor? Don't answer if Ethan calls. Don't tell anyone where I might be, even if you don't actually know. Of course. Do you need anything? Money? Clothes? I thought about it. Maybe clothes, but I don't know how to get them safely. I could drop them at the police station for you, she suggested. That seemed safe enough. I thanked her and hung up. Then I called Officer Rivera. She answered right away. Mrs. Campbell, we've been trying to reach you. Your husband has reported you missing. I explained what Naomi told me. Officer Rivera sighed. We went to your house. He wasn't there. We've been trying his cell, but he's not answering. Do you have any idea where he might go? I didn't. For all I knew, every detail of our life together was a carefully constructed lie. I told her about the texts, how many there were. Forward those to me, she said, and stay where you are. We'll keep looking for him. After we hung up, I forced myself to look at Ethan's messages. They started angry, demanding I come home. Then they shifted to concern, saying he was worried, that he'd called the police because he thought something happened to me. The last few were different, though. I know you're scared, but you don't understand. Those photos aren't what you think. I was protecting you. There are things you don't know about those women. About Marcus. That name again. Marcus Winters, the owner of the silver Honda. Who was he? How did Ethan know him? I played the voicemails next. The first was just Ethan asking where I was. The second was him saying he'd called the police because he was worried. The third made my blood freeze. Megan, listen to me. If you're getting followed, it's not me. It's Marcus. He's dangerous. Those folders, the targets, that wasn't what you think. I was tracking him. He's been stalking women for years. I've been trying to stop him. That's why I had those photos. Evidence. Please call me back. You're in danger. I played it again. His voice sounded genuinely scared, but that couldn't be right. The photos of me from before we met, the recent photos of women at his gym, the meticulous organization. That wasn't someone gathering evidence. That was someone obsessed. I forwarded everything to Officer Rivera like she asked. Then I turned my phone off again. I couldn't handle any more tonight. I took a shower in the grimy motel bathroom, trying to wash away the feeling of being watched. It didn't work. I kept seeing those folders, those women's names, my name. I barely slept that night. Every car in the parking lot, every footstep in the hallway made me sit up straight. I kept the TV on for noise, but didn't really watch it. Around 5 a.m., I gave up on sleep. I turned my phone back on, keeping it in airplane mode so no new messages would come through. I looked through my photos, screenshots of Ethan's files. Something wasn't adding up. The photos of me from before we met. They weren't like the others. They weren't creepy angles through windows or zoomed in from across the street. They were normal. Me laughing with friends, walking across campus. Nothing that screamed stalker photo. So where did he get them? I zoomed in on one. Me at a party, red cup in hand, talking to someone just out of frame. I recognized that party. Sophomore year. Naomi had dragged me there. Said I needed to meet new people. I hadn't wanted to go. Naomi. She was in a lot of these early photos with me. Always just at the edge of the frame. Always the one who suggested we go places. Who introduced me to new people. Who eventually introduced me to Ethan. My stomach twisted. Number. That couldn't be right. Naomi was my best friend. Had been since freshman year. She couldn't have been helping him. Could she? I turned airplane mode off. Immediately, new texts came through from Ethan. Megan, please, you're in danger. Marcus knows you found the photos. He knows you went to the police. He's not going to let you expose him. I know you don't trust me right now. I get it. But don't trust Naomi either. Ask her about Marcus. Ask her how they know each other. I'm trying to find you before he does. Please tell me where you are. I felt sick. Was this just manipulation? Trying to isolate me from my friend? Or was there something to it? I scrolled back through the photos. Found one of Naomi at a party, standing next to a guy I didn't recognize. Tall, dark hair. I zoomed in on his face, then did a quick social media search for Marcus Winters. And there he was. Same guy. In a profile picture with Naomi from 3 years ago, before I even met Ethan. The caption read, "Cousin's night out. Love you, cuz. Ride or die." My hand started shaking again. This couldn't be happening. I called Officer Rivera. "I need to show you something," I said when she answered. "Can I come to the station?" "Of course," she said. "I'll be here until noon." I gathered my few belongings and checked the parking lot carefully before leaving my room. No silver Honda. No sign of Ethan. I drove to the police station, constantly checking my mirrors. No one seemed to be following me this time. Officer Rivera met me in the same interview room. I showed her the social media post. The connection between Naomi and Marcus. "And you had no idea they were related?" she asked. "None," I said. "Naomi never mentioned having a cousin named Marcus. Never introduced us." Officer Rivera made some notes. "We brought Marcus Winters in for questioning yesterday after you reported being followed. He said he was just driving around. We couldn't hold him." My heart sank. "So he's out there, and he knows I came here?" She nodded grimly. "We're still looking for your husband. Neither of them has broken any laws that we can prove yet. The photos are concerning, but not necessarily illegal." "What about the stalking? The folders with women's information?" "We need to see the originals. The actual computer. Right now, all we have are your copies, which don't hold up as evidence." I felt like screaming. How was this happening? How is no one taking this seriously? So what am I supposed to do? Just wait until one of them does something worse. Officer Rivera leaned forward. "I believe you, Mrs. Campbell, but I need more to act on. We can get a warrant to search your house based on what you've shown me, but it will take time. Time I didn't have." I nodded anyway. What choice did I have? "In the meantime," she continued, "stay somewhere safe, and maybe talk to your friend. See what she knows. Record the conversation if you can." I left the station feeling more alone than ever. I sat in my car, staring at my phone. Should I call Naomi? Confront her? What if she was in on it the whole time? What if she told Marcus where I was? I decided to text her instead. "Hey, can we meet somewhere public? Need to talk." She responded immediately. "Of course. Coffee shop on Main? 20 minutes?" That was busy enough to be safe. I agreed and drove there, parking where I could see the entrance. Naomi arrived first. I watched her get a table by the window, order 2 coffees, check her phone repeatedly. She looked nervous. Or was I just seeing what I wanted to see? I took a deep breath and went inside. Naomi jumped up to hug me. I let her, but I felt stiff in her arms. "I've been so worried," she said. "Have you heard anything more from the police?" I sat down across from her. "Actually, yes. They found out who was following me yesterday. Guy named Marcus Winters. Ring any bells?" I watched her face carefully. The color drained from it. Her eyes widened slightly before she controlled her expression. "No," she said. "Should it?" I slid my phone across the table, showing her the social media post. "Cousin's night out? Ride or die?" Naomi stared at the screen, then at me. "I can explain." "Please do," I said, hitting record on my phone under the table. "Marcus is my cousin, yes, but I haven't spoken to him in years. We had a falling out. He's not a good person. And you never thought to mention that when I told you someone was following me yesterday?" She fidgeted with her coffee cup. "I didn't know it was him. I swear. Megan, we don't talk anymore. What about Ethan? How does he know Marcus?" Her eyes darted around the coffee shop. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Ethan says Marcus is dangerous, that he's been stalking women, that Ethan was tracking him, not the other way around." Naomi laughed, but it sounded forced. "And you believe him? After everything you found?" "I don't know what to believe anymore," I said honestly. "But I know you introduced me to Ethan. After a year of taking me to parties, introducing me to people, getting me in photos." Her face changed then. Something cold flickered behind her eyes. "You're being paranoid, Megan. This whole thing has messed with your head." "Maybe," I said. "Or maybe you've been helping them all along. Maybe that's why you were so eager to help me gather evidence yesterday, so you'd know exactly what I found." Naomi stood up suddenly. "I don't have to listen to this. Call me when you're thinking clearly again." She walked out, leaving her coffee untouched. I sat there, shaking. What just happened? Was that guilt on her face, or just anger at being accused? I stopped the recording and played it back. Her voice sounded different when she denied knowing Marcus. Strained, higher pitched. I left the coffee shop and sat in my car, unsure what to do next. I couldn't go back to the motel. Naomi knew what my car looked like. I couldn't go home. I couldn't go to the police with just a suspicious-sounding recording. My phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me hit accept. "Megan, it's Tara. From next door? Our neighbor. The one in Ethan's recent photos." "Tara? How did you get this number?" "Ethan gave it to me ages ago. For emergencies." She paused. "Look, this is going to sound weird, but is everything okay? Ethan came by last night looking for you. He seemed really upset. Then this morning, I saw someone breaking into your house." I sat up straight. "What? Did you call the police?" "Yes, they just left. But here's the thing. It wasn't a stranger. It was your friend. The one with the red hair. She had a key. Naomi. Breaking into my house right after our confrontation. Did she take anything I asked, my mouth dry. I don't know. The police looked around but said nothing seemed disturbed. They're trying to reach you. I thanked Tara and hung up. Then I called Officer Rivera again, told her what happened, about the coffee shop, about Naomi going to my house right after. I'm sending officers back to your house, she said. And I'll have someone look for Ms. Peterson. Where are you now? I told her I was still at the coffee shop. She told me to stay put. An officer would come meet me. I hung up and waited, watching every car that pulled into the lot. No silver Honda, no sign of Ethan or Naomi. A police cruiser pulled up 15 minutes later. A young officer named Chen came inside and sat across from me. Officer Rivera asked me to escort you somewhere safe, he said. We can go to the station first if you'd like. I nodded, relieved to not be alone anymore. I followed his cruiser in my car. We were halfway to the station when my phone rang again. Ethan. I almost declined it, but then decided to answer. Put it on speaker so Officer Chen could hear if I needed help. Megan? Thank God. Where are you? Somewhere safe, I said. Away from you. Listen to me. I know how this looks. The photos, the folders. But it's not what you think. Marcus has been stalking these women for years. I found out in college when I caught him with hidden cameras in the women's locker room. I confronted him, and he threatened me. Said he had friends who would back him up. Make it look like I was the one doing it. Like Naomi? I asked. Silence for a moment. Yes, like Naomi. She's been helping him, introducing him to women, getting close to them. Why would I believe you? You had photos of me from before we met. Because Naomi showed them to me. She was trying to set us up, remember? She showed me your Instagram, your Facebook, said we'd be perfect together. I saved those photos because I thought you were beautiful. That was before I knew what they were doing. It sounded rehearsed, too perfect an explanation, but something nagged at me. Those early photos really weren't stalker photos. They were normal, social media type pictures. If that's true, why keep it secret? Why not tell me? Because by the time I realized what was happening, we were already serious. I was afraid you wouldn't believe me, that you'd think exactly what you're thinking now. And I was trying to gather enough evidence to go to the police, to stop him. Then why freak out about my bikini photo? Why act like a controlling jerk? He sighed. Because Marcus follows your private account. Naomi added him years ago. I saw him like the photo and then unlike it. I panicked. I handled it badly. I'm sorry. My head was spinning. Could this possibly be true? Or was he just an incredibly good manipulator? Megan, where are you right now? Are you somewhere safe? I glanced at Officer Chen's cruiser ahead of me. I'm fine. Are you with the police? Officer Rivera? Why? Because she's not answering her phone. I've been trying to reach her all morning. I have proof. About Marcus. About Naomi. Text messages between them planning everything. If you have proof, bring it to the station, I said. I'm trying, but I think something's wrong. The officer who was supposed to meet me never showed up, and I just drove by the station. There are no cars in the lot, not even patrol cars. I looked ahead at Officer Chen's cruiser. Now that Ethan mentioned it, it wasn't a marked car, just a dark sedan with a small light on top. My stomach dropped. Ethan, I have to go, I said, and hung up. I slowed down, putting more distance between me and the car ahead. Where were we going? This wasn't the way to the police station. We were heading toward the outskirts of town, toward the industrial district. I took a sudden right turn at the next intersection. The sedan ahead kept going for a moment, then made a U-turn, following me. That wasn't Officer Chen. Maybe it wasn't a police officer at all. I called 911. I need help. I think someone impersonating a police officer is following me. The dispatcher took my information, told me to drive to the nearest police station. I made random turns, trying to lose the sedan while heading toward downtown. It stayed with me, getting closer. I ran a yellow light. The sedan ran the red to keep up. My phone rang again. Ethan, I answered. Megan, where are you? Exactly. I told him the intersection I was approaching. There's a fire station 2 blocks north. Go there. Now I'm 3 minutes away. I didn't know if I could trust him, but I didn't have many options. I turned north, pushing the speed limit. The sedan was right behind me now, close enough that I could see the driver, not Officer Chen, not anyone I recognized. The fire station appeared ahead. I pulled into the driveway, honking repeatedly. Firefighters came out looking confused. I jumped out of my car. Someone's following me. He's pretending to be a police officer. The sedan slowed as it passed the station, then sped away. The firefighters brought me inside, asked if I was hurt, called the real police. I was shaking so hard I could barely speak. 5 minutes later, Ethan's car pulled up outside. He ran in, looking frantic. When he saw me, his face crumpled with relief. Thank God, he said, stopping a few feet away, not approaching, giving me space. Are you okay? I nodded, still not sure if I could trust him. How did you find me? Phone tracking app, he admitted. I installed it when we got married, for emergencies. Another invasion of privacy, another secret, but it might have saved my life today. Who was that? In the car? I asked. I think it was Marcus, or someone working with him. Ethan pulled out his phone. I have proof. Text messages between him and Naomi, planning everything. He handed me his phone. I scrolled through the conversation. Naomi and Marcus discussing women. Targets. Me. How did you get these? I asked. I hacked her cloud account. After I found out what they were doing, I've been gathering evidence for months. It was all there. Plans to introduce me to Ethan, to manipulate me, to isolate me if I ever found out. And worse, plans for what happened after. Once they finished the job, the real police arrived. 2 uniformed officers. I recognized one from the station yesterday. They took statements from both of us, called Officer Rivera, who confirmed she never sent anyone to meet me. The man who claimed to be Officer Chen wasn't on the force. I showed them the texts from Ethan's phone. They took it as evidence, said they'd bring Naomi and Marcus in for questioning, that we should both come to the station to make formal statements. I rode with the officers. Ethan followed in his car. At the station, they separated us for questioning. I told them everything. The photos, the coffee shop conversation, the fake police officer. They recorded it all. Faces grim. Hours later, Officer Rivera came in. We've arrested Marcus Winters and Naomi Peterson. We found evidence in their apartments linking them to several missing persons cases over the past 5 years. My blood went cold. Missing persons? You mean? She nodded. We're still investigating, but it appears they've been targeting women for a long time. Your husband's evidence was crucial. The text messages, the photos he collected of Marcus following women. So he was telling the truth? He was tracking Marcus, not stalking women himself? It appears so. We found journals in Naomi's apartment. She detailed everything, how she would befriend women, introduce them to her cousin, how your husband discovered them in college and they decided to bring him in rather than risk exposure. I felt dizzy. Bring him in? What does that mean? They manipulated him, threatened him, then decided to use him as a cover. Naomi orchestrated your meeting. They thought having you marry him would provide legitimacy, make it harder for him to go to the police. I couldn't process this. Ethan wasn't a stalker. He was a victim too, used as a shield by the real predators. My best friend and her cousin. Can I see him? I asked. Officer Rivera nodded. He's waiting. I walked into the room where Ethan was waiting. He looked up, his face a mix of exhaustion and relief. For a second, we just stared at each other. I didn't know what to say. How do you start a conversation after discovering your entire relationship might have been orchestrated by criminals? Hey, he said finally. Such a normal word for such an insane situation. I sat down across from him. So, Naomi and Marcus, they planned all this? He nodded, running his hand through his hair. I found out in college. Caught Marcus setting up cameras in the women's locker room. When I confronted him, Naomi showed up. They threatened to frame me if I went to the police. Why didn't you tell me? Ever. At first, I was scared. Then we got serious, and I thought they'd backed off. By the time I realized they were still active, we were already married. I was afraid you wouldn't believe me. He looked down at his hands. I started gathering evidence instead, following Marcus when I could, documenting everything. It made a twisted kind of sense. The folders, the surveillance. He wasn't stalking those women. He was tracking the people who were. And my bikini photo? That controlling bullshit? He winced. I handled that terribly. I saw that Marcus had accessed your private account. When you posted that photo, I panicked. I thought if you kept a lower profile, they might leave you alone. But I came across like a controlling jerk. Officer Rivera came back in with 2 cups of coffee. We're still processing everything, but we've confirmed Marcus Winters has been following multiple women in the area. We found tracking devices, cameras, detailed schedules. My stomach turned. What about Naomi? Was she involved in all of it? Based on what we've found so far, yes. She was the friendly face, the one who got close to the targets first. Targets. That word again. I'd been a target for years. My best friend had never really been my friend at all. What happens now? I asked. We'll need both of you to make formal statements. There will be an investigation, possibly a trial, depending on what evidence we find. She paused. And you'll need to decide if you want protection. We don't know if they were working alone. That hadn't even occurred to me. Could there be others? More people watching us? After finishing at the station, we stood awkwardly in the parking lot. I didn't know where to go. Home felt tainted now. The motel wasn't safe if Naomi had shared my location. You can stay with me at my brother's place, Ethan offered. He's out of town. Or I can get you a hotel, whatever makes you feel safe. I ended up choosing a different hotel, one Naomi didn't know about. Ethan got a separate room down the hall. I wasn't ready to share space with him yet. Too much had happened. I needed time to process. That night, I barely slept. I kept replaying everything in my head. Every conversation with Naomi over the years. Every coincidence that brought Ethan and me together. Had anything in my life been real? In the morning, Ethan knocked on my door with coffee and bagels. We sat at the small table by the window, eating in silence for a while. I need to know everything, I finally said. From the beginning, He told me how it started. Catching Marcus in the act during our sophomore year. The threats. How they gradually pulled him into their web. How Naomi showed him my photos. Engineered our chance meeting. Did you ever actually like me? I asked. Or was that part of their plan too? His face softened. That was real. They might have arranged our meeting, but everything after was genuine. At least on my side. I wasn't sure I believed him. Not completely. But the evidence was pointing that way. Over the next few days, more details emerged. The police found storage units rented by Marcus containing belongings from women who had gone missing over the past 5 years. Photos, journals, hair samples. It was like something from a horror movie. They found 3 bodies buried on property owned by Marcus's family. Women who had disappeared after being seen with him or Naomi. The case exploded. Local news picked it up. Reporters started calling us. We stayed at the hotel, hiding from the media circus. The police provided security. They were taking the threat seriously now. Too late for those other women, but maybe in time to save others. A week after the arrests, Officer Rivera called us to the station again. They'd found something in Naomi's apartment. A detailed plan. For me, we believe they were planning to make you disappear next, she said, her voice gentle but direct. There are notes about your schedule, places you go alone, methods they were considering. I felt sick. Why me? Why? After all this time? Based on Naomi's journals, they became concerned that Mr. Campbell was gathering evidence against them. They planned to use your disappearance to frame him. It was so cold, so calculated. My best friend had been planning my murder. There's something else, Officer Rivera continued. We found evidence that they've done this before. Set up couples, used one person as cover while targeting the other. How many? Ethan asked. his voice hollow. At least 3 other couples that we can identify so far. In each case, one spouse disappeared. The other was investigated, but never charged due to lack of evidence. The perfect crime. Use one person to get close to another. Make the target disappear. Let the spouse take the fall, or at least the suspicion. Even if they were never convicted, their lives would be ruined. That night, Ethan and I sat in my hotel room, watching the news coverage. They weren't releasing our names, just referring to us as the couple who helped break the case. Small mercies. I keep thinking about those other couples, I said. Did they know each other before? Or were they set up like us? Ethan shook his head. I don't know. But I keep wondering if I could have stopped this sooner. If I'd gone to the police right away in college, they would have framed you, I reminded him. You were trapped, too. We were both victims. Different kinds maybe, but victims nonetheless. 2 weeks after the arrests, we finally went back to our house. The police had searched it thoroughly, looking for evidence. They found cameras in our bedroom, our bathroom, the living room, all hidden by Naomi during her helpful visits. I stood in our bedroom looking at the small holes in the wall where the cameras had been. I can't stay here, I said. Not knowing they were watching us, that she was watching us. Ethan nodded. We'll sell it. Start over somewhere else. Start over. Could we do that? After everything? We began packing up essential items, things we'd need while staying at the hotel, until we figured out our next move. I found myself in the attic, looking at the shoebox that had started it all. The police had taken the SD cards as evidence, but the box remained. I sat on the dusty floor, holding it. If I hadn't found this, would I still be living in ignorance? Would I be dead by now? Another victim of Naomi and Marcus? Ethan found me there. You okay? I shook my head. I don't know if I'll ever be okay again. I don't know who to trust. My best friend was planning to call me. My husband was keeping massive secrets. My whole life feels like a lie. He sat down next to me, not touching, just present. I know, and I'm sorry for my part in it. I should have found a way to tell you. Would I have believed you? If you told me Naomi was evil? Probably not, he admitted. I wouldn't have believed it either if I hadn't seen it firsthand. We sat in silence for a while. Then I asked the question that had been haunting me. What happens to us now? Can we even have a relationship after this? He looked at me, his eyes tired but honest. I don't know. That's up to you. I love you. That part was never fake, but I understand if you can't get past this. I didn't have an answer yet. I needed time. The preliminary hearing for Naomi and Marcus was scheduled for a month after their arrest. We were both called to testify. I dreaded seeing Naomi again, facing the woman who had pretended to be my friend while plotting my death. The courthouse was packed. Journalists, family members of the victims, curious onlookers. I kept my head down, avoiding eye contact. Ethan stayed close, a buffer between me and the crowd. When they brought Naomi in, I almost didn't recognize her. Gone was the stylish, confident woman I'd known. In her place was someone small, diminished. She looked at me once, her expression unreadable, before focusing on the judge. I testified about our friendship, about discovering the photos, about her reaction at the coffee shop. My voice shook at times, but I got through it. Ethan testified about the years of manipulation and threats, about the evidence he'd gathered. The judge ordered them held without bail. A trial date was set for 6 months later. We left the courthouse through a back entrance, avoiding the press. You did great, Ethan said as we drove back to the hotel. That couldn't have been easy. It wasn't. Nothing about this was easy. We found a small apartment in a secure building across town, somewhere to stay while we figured out our next steps. We slept in separate rooms, started therapy, both individually and together, tried to rebuild some sense of normalcy. Slowly, I started to separate Ethan from what had happened, to see that while he'd made mistakes, kept secrets, he'd also been a victim of their manipulation. He'd been trying to protect me, even if he went about it all wrong. 3 months after the arrests, DNA evidence linked Marcus to 2 more missing women in a neighboring state. The case expanded, more victims identified, more families getting answers they'd waited years for. Officer Rivera kept us updated. She'd become something of a friend through all this. They're talking plea deals, she told us over coffee one day, trying to avoid the death penalty. Will they get it? I asked. A deal? The DA is considering it for Naomi if she testifies against Marcus, but he's looking at multiple life sentences either way. It was strange to think of Naomi in prison for the rest of her life, the woman who'd helped me pick out my wedding dress, who'd held my hair back when I got food poisoning, who'd been planning my murder. 6 months after moving into the apartment, Ethan and I were having dinner when he brought up the future. The house sold, he said. We got a good offer. I nodded. We'd listed it below market value, just wanting to be done with it. I've been thinking about moving, he continued. Fresh start somewhere new, maybe the West Coast. My heart sank a little. Oh, when would you go? He looked at me carefully. That depends. I was hoping you might consider coming with me. I set down my fork. Ethan, not as if nothing happened, he said quickly. I know we can't just erase the past year, but maybe as a new beginning, different city, different memories. I'd been thinking about it too, about us, about whether we could salvage anything from the wreckage of our marriage. I need to know something first, I said. That night, when you got upset about my bikini photo, was that really about protecting me? Or was there some part of you that meant what you said, about wives and respect and all that? He considered the question carefully. I was genuinely scared when I saw Marcus had access to your account, but the way I handled it, he sighed. That came from somewhere ugly in me. Insecurity, control issues, things I'm working on in therapy. It was the most honest answer he could have given, not a flat denial, an acknowledgement of his flaws. I can't promise anything, I said, but I'd be willing to look at places, see if a fresh start feels right. It wasn't a yes, but it wasn't a no either. The trial was scheduled for the following spring. We'd both have to testify again, face Naomi and Marcus in court, relive everything. But after that, we'd be free to move on, to decide what our future looked like together or apart. 2 weeks before the trial date, Naomi accepted a plea deal. Life without parole in exchange for testimony against Marcus and information about other victims. Marcus went to trial and was convicted on all counts. Multiple life sentences, no possibility of parole. It was over. Finally over. We flew to Seattle the next day, just to visit, to see if it felt right. The constant rain was a cleansing sort of metaphor, washing away the past. Standing on the ferry to Bainbridge Island, watching the city skyline recede, I felt Ethan's presence beside me, not touching, just there. What do you think? He asked. I looked at the gray water, the green islands in the distance, so different from the place where our story began. I think I could start over here, I said. New job, new home, new us, he asked quietly. I turned to look at him. The man I'd married. The man I'd almost lost in more ways than one. The man who, despite everything, had fought to protect me. Maybe, I said, one day at a time. It wasn't a fairy tale ending. There were still nightmares, trust, issues, days when I couldn't look at him without seeing all the secrets and lies. But there were also moments of connection, of understanding, of shared survival. We found a small house near the water, separate bedrooms, a fresh start. Not as husband and wife, not yet, but as two people who'd been through hell together and chosen to walk out the other side by side, one day at a time.